Town of Lewisboro Town Board meeting. Exits, front exit's that way, rear exit is this way. And if you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first we're going to start with a public hearing. This is regarding Baccio Trattoria's petition for a zoning map amendment. Is there anyone here that wants to speak? Michael?
Yes, good evening. I'll be brief. Michael Surignano. I'm here with Antonio Coppola, the proprietor owner of Baccio. And we petitioned your board to consider a zoning change for the northerly portion of a property that's directly across North Salem Road from Baccio. Your board referred it to the planning board, and we appeared before them last Tuesday. I don't know if there's been enough time for them to report back to you.
They sent the letter to us.
They did, so I can read that.
All right, so that should be part of the record then.
Okay.
In any event, the best for the public, the best representation of what we're trying to accomplish is the colorized sheet that's just before the revocable license agreement in the packet tonight. And I guess for people watching online, they can access that through the website.
Yeah, I'll actually share it on the
Okay.
screen so people can see it.
Good.
So let me go ahead and do that.
When was the letter sent? I didn't see it. Did it just go to you? Did it go on? It's a letter from the board.
The
from
planning board? It was distributed to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me just share this on a second here. So, okay, share screen. Okay, it's being shared.
Okay.
Okay, can you see that, John? You verify?
It's loading right now, it's Tony, there it is.
Okay, good. Okay.
Very good. So this was prepared by Jeff DeRosa up at Insight Engineering. And the red line, the north-south red line, it's indicates, and there's a little note, area to be rezoned to RB. That's really the rectangle we're looking to be changed from R1/2 acre to RB, but exclusively for the purpose of overflow parking for the restaurant. Currently, Antonio has an arrangement with the AIA building, or I guess it has Boro Cafe is probably the new name of that property. He's been having his customers on busy nights, typically warm weather and weekend nights. If they pull through into his parking lot and there's no available spaces, they exit the rear exit because it's a one-way flow at his restaurant. And they have been pulling into the AIA parking area. So what he wants to do is control his own destiny, and he has this property on the corner of North Salem Road and Mark Mead Road under contract, and we're seeking to rezone it so that we can go to the planning board should you change the zoning and present a site plan to the planning board. And that site plan would obviously include not just the layout of the parking spaces that we're looking for, but screening, lighting, stormwater, and all the normal site development plan issues that the planning board reviews. And Antonio wants to be a good neighbor. He has been a good neighbor to Mark Mead neighbors, and he will continue to do so. And he's open to any and all screening that the planning board recommends to protect the Mark Mead residents from what we believe will be minimal impacts. But the issue before your board tonight is not the site plan, because that's ultimately up to the planning board. It's the rezoning petition. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, Michael, on that point, we got a May 19th letter from Janet Anderson, planning board, which I don't know if everybody had a chance to look at. So it's talking about general support for the rezoning proposal, but they're talking about a coordinated secret review linking the rezoning and site development plan approval. So just want to know if you could, comment on that.
Which is kind of what my sort of personal questions go to as well. Like, sure, we like the idea as conceived, but rezoning it means that somebody could come in the next round and do anything that's allowable within that zone. So,
Well, I understand that concern, but because we're only rezoning the northerly, 60, 70 feet, and it's
it's 1 point. Oh, it's still a decent size. piece of
well,
land.
it's only part of a parcel, and the remainder of the parcel is going to remain residentially zoned, the southerly portion. So as a practical matter, I don't see how anybody could develop that for any truly retail business type uses. I mean, it's just not enough area.
Could be somebody who merges it with the front plot, with the AIA building or something. I've
That's possible.
seen enough times where I've been surprised. Wow, I never would have imagined that would get past, there at some future date. But anyway, that would be
Well,
addressed in this coordinated seeker, maybe. In other words,
Yeah.
they only get approved together.
Our concern with that, frankly, is timing. A coordinated review and the site plan review is going to take months. We only have a 90-day, due diligence period under this contract. We haven't even gotten the new up-to-date survey. Jeff DeRose is working on that. He did the field work last week. So a coordinated review would take, I would think, minimum 4 to 6 months, and that's our concern.
Is there any other way to get some level of assurance that this plan is what it is? I'm just, and don't get me wrong, I think that area in general is great for sort of mixed development and further development. But I don't know if the house is right next door, if their expectation is, parking overflow, fine, but the whole new, retail establishment or something. I don't know about. Just do right by them. Well,
Question, is there a way that we could change the zoning so it would stay with just this application? So if they decide to sell the restaurant, it would revert back to residential?
Yeah, I don't know.
well, other than a variance approach, which I think we discussed last time.
Yeah, no, I don't think you can make it just for the current owner or the current contract vendee.
Yeah.
However, we had a similar situation down in Vista a few years ago where you rezoned from RB to GB, but it was specifically only for certain use, landscape, nursery use. And so we're prepared to accept that stipulation of any action the board takes, which is specifically only for parking in conjunction with the restaurant across the way.
How does that actually get codified in, when you rezone, you can, how do you add those additional constraints?
You're gonna add it right into the code, as Michael was saying, it's going to make that a zoning distinction, which essentially will help it be tailored to the specific use to get into what Mary said, but you can't
Right.
have anything that just goes away if they sell that. I can't do, but this would be a way to tailor it.
Okay.
And then in conjunction with the site plan approval, obviously that has to happen to what we want to see happen there.
I think I asked this last time. So we had any communications referable to the public hearing and
No, I
pro or
haven't-
con from any of
I have not
anybody in the
received any.
neighborhood?
No, but we have the public hearing. Now, one option I had discussed this with Greg was we can still have the public hearing, close it. But in terms of the seeker and local law consideration, we wait till the next meeting. And I'm looking at Jen for her opinion on that.
I would suggest if you're gonna do that, I would keep it open
Okay,
for a few reasons. I had heard that some of the neighbors had voiced they weren't happy about it. And I don't know if they showed up to the public hearing with the planning board. No.
Well, it
So-
wasn't a public hearing from the planning board.
Okay, okay.
But we've heard nothing from neighbors as yet, to my
Yeah.
knowledge.
Okay. And now if we're considering as a board, changing the proposed amendment to alter it in such a way to reflect what Rich suggested or what was outlined.
Well, that's what the planning board was talking about. That's not.
Yeah.
Right, well, what I'm saying is that then what we have attached here as the proposed amendment would then have to be changed, and then we'd have to notice it again, wouldn't we? Any changes? If we rewrite it,
I'm sorry, I didn't see that.
Oh. not yet,
No.
here, yes. We have the petition for zoning amendment, right? This is just the petition, so we don't have the proposed zoning change yet.
There isn't the drafted.
I haven't seen one yet.
Okay.
No, Greg deemed this to be, or thought it was an unlisted action, and he recommended that if the public hearing closes tonight, that there be no board action until next month. That's what he told me.
Right.
That's what we discussed as well earlier today.
Right.
so.
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with doing that.
I mean, there's no final commitment yet on anything, right?
Right.
What's the difference if we leave it open until next time with no action as opposed to closing it with no action until next time? What's the difference? Just that it gives residents an additional opportunity to come in and speak?
We have no objection to that, as long as you could have a resolution ready, and depending on what the neighbors say or don't say.
Right.
I just don't want to lose an extra month beyond that.
No, I understand. that.
What's the, you were mentioning the 90-day due diligence. How does that impact?
Antonio is under contract to purchase this entire piece. But he has the ability to opt out of the contract and get his down payment back within the first 90 days. He learns from this board that you wouldn't change the zoning, so he couldn't use it for his intended purpose.
Understood.
Was it?
Is the clock ticking?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Well, unless it was discussed or addressed as far as an extension, I guess.
I'm sorry.
Unless it was discussed as far as an extension of the 90
Oh,
day.
we haven't gotten to the end of the 90 days yet. Yeah.
So the process of actually notifying the neighbors, that happens within the zoning board's processes, yes? Isn't there a process where everybody within a certain number of feet from the action?
When we go for site plan review, we're going to have to notice the neighbors, yes.
Okay, so as of yet, those neighbors have not been notified.
Well, whatever notification your board uses when you're considering an amendment to a local law, that's the notice that
Right,
went
so the
out.
only notice that went out is the official notice that we have to give when we give a public hearing. But there has been no public hearing at the planning board level. And until there's a site plan review, there'll be no additional notification with regards to what the plans are. So the only public notice that was given was in regard to
Just for the
this,
rezoning.
right?
Yeah.
This petition.
Right.
But in the zoning process, there's an actual mailing that goes to.
Yes,
Right,
for
so
a
that's
variance.
obviously significantly different than just a public announcement of a board.
Directly to them, yes.
Yeah,
You said you've had communications with neighbors that have an issue with this.
I've heard that, but I haven't heard it directly from the source of the neighbors. It's like a rumor, and I don't want to give credence to it. If people really have complaints about it, I would expect that if they knew about the hearing or if they get the notice with regard to the site plan, that they're going to come forward and say something. But I haven't received any emails, and my understanding is neither has anyone else on the board. I haven't received any emails or any other communications from the neighbors directly voicing their discontent with the plan. This is just, I don't want to give credence to rumors. I want to hear from people. And if they don't come, then they don't come.
Yeah.
So that's a good segue to hear from if anybody has any, right?
Yeah, we haven't
from
heard from
anybody.
anyone, but
Anybody else?
currently there's parking on the north side of this fence, and we're
Yes.
proposing to park on the south side of the fence.
And you're only
10
proposing the amendment for a portion of the property, not
Correct.
the entirety, so that there's no threat of the parking extending beyond.
Correct.
And
So, you want me to go ahead? I can read the planning board letter to the record, so. This is from Jan Anderson, who's the chair. I submit this letter on behalf of the planning board in response to the town board's referral of the above referenced petition for a zoning map amendment. The amendment will rezone a portion of the property located at 19 Markmead Road. The planning board considered this petition at its May 17th meeting. You heard from Michael Siriano, the attorney for Anacapri LLC. The planning board then authorized me as chair to submit this letter. Mr. Siriano confirmed the purpose of the request rezoning is to allow overflow parking for a commercial entity, Bacho Restaurant, which will be limited to the RB zone portion of 19 Markmead Road parcel only. If rezoned, this overflow parking will be subject to site development plan review requirements and thus be subject to planning board review. The planning board, however, did not receive any site plan in support of the requested change to the zoning map. The planning board expresses its general support for the requested zoning change based upon the materials received in Mr. Siriano's presentation. However, the planning board would be in a more informed position had it received a site plan and cannot take a position on whether site plan development approval will be granted or in what form it may be granted. Should the town board amend the zoning map? Excuse me. In this regard, a coordinated SECRA review linking the rezoning and the site development plan approval would be the preferred procedural choice. Nonetheless, the planning board generally endorses the concept underlying the requested zoning. On behalf of the planning board, I thank the town board for its consideration of these comments.
so question for you, if, say we go ahead as you're requesting this
Right.
evening, right? And then you submit the site plan for you to the planning board and you go through that process and they go, nope. Then is your client is out of luck, right? At that point, if they turn, I'm just saying,
Theoretically, worst case scenario, yes, but I don't see it playing out that way.
no,
It's going to be a question of whether we get 12 spaces approved or 10. It's a question of how many evergreen trees Antonio.
I mean,
wants to
they
buy.
do say that they endorse the concept,
Right.
yeah,
right?
So we'll
yeah.
work with them, and Antonio, as I said at the beginning, wants to be a good neighbor and wants to not inconvenience or disrupt the residential neighbors on Markmead Road. So it's a matter of screening. It's a matter of how many parking spaces. Also, he's willing to live with conditions where his employees will park there so that they come early and they leave at the end of the night. So there's less,
Turnover.
customers having to use it because it'll free up more spaces on the premises. So we're going to work with the planning board. That's a risk we're willing to take. I don't see that is a real risk. He also, just so that all cards are on the table, it's a legal two-family house. We're not asking that portion to be rezoned, but Antonio would like to utilize those residential units for his more important staff that have to travel long distances.
so it seems to be only one residential property that it really abuts on. The property in the front is currently the AIA building.
And that's currently
So the
RB.
only frontage is on one residential piece of property.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it would be to the east of the property.
So we'll open up the public hearing. Anyone here like to say anything?
Also,
Go ahead.
here, another matter, but I go to Bachelor's pretty regularly.
Jim Morio.
Jim Morio, resident of Golden's Bridge. I go to Bachelor's pretty regularly as a result of events going on at John Jay High School. A lot of parents will gather there while their children are at whatever it is, whether it's practice or another event. And it's often that you can't get into Bachelor's, not because there isn't a table, because you can't find a place to park. And then you have to go someplace else, and then you're rushing to get something to eat someplace else. So I can tell you from firsthand experience, the parking is tight there. And while there might be room to sit down and eat, it's hard to actually get in, especially when there's events at John Jay. So I'm a proponent of getting Antonio some extra parking so people could use this place.
Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
Anybody else here? How about on Zoom? Anybody? Any hands up?
And this is just pertaining to
To,
this,
to
correct?
this rezoning, correct?
Okay, so Carol Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. I am also a proponent of allowing the extra parking for Baccios. I think they're a reputable business and they serve a purpose in this community, and we need to support them. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
And that appears
That's
to
it?
be it.
Okay. So motion to close the public hearing. Do I have a second?
Who moves, who seconds?
I'm a motion. to
I'll
close the
second.
hearing. Discussion?
Well,
All in
I'm just,
favor?
well, yeah, I'm just concerned based upon Andrew's comments. It's certainly the obligations of the neighbors or anybody who's interested to make themselves heard on it, but I'm just concerned about that to make sure that because we don't have any canvassing of any neighbors, and so that's just a concern of mine that somebody's gonna find out after the fact that may have some input, just based upon what Andrew's comments that I don't know if it's so or not so, but that's my concern.
So let me ask this question. If we keep the hearing open until the next date, to allow one more day for people to come in, and then if not, if no one else comes forward or we don't hear anything to change our mind, and we can still take the same action the next time as if we had closed the hearing today.
There's a middle ground, and I'll let you obviously be guided by your capable counsel, but the middle ground would be to close the public hearing, but leave it open for written comments.
I'm good with that.
What do you think, Rich?
So
Do remember that no notice is going to change between now and then. You've duly noticed the way that you do for a public hearing on a zoning change.
Right.
The other concerns are probably going to come in, as Michael will tell you, at that planning board site plan level. That's not really this board's concern right now. You're deciding on the zoning change and then the site plan, although the letter read a little bit like, yes, it would have been nice if the site plan materials were there. I just want to be clear on the record that the applicant was by no means required to do that. That's a little, doing more than necessary ahead of time, because if you don't approve the zoning amendment, why would you pay?
So if-
to do all that. So I think that when you get to that planning board and site plan level, that's where your neighbors are going to be probably more interested in, exactly as his attorney stated, the screening, the number of spots, what kind of traffic's coming out of there, and they will be individually noticed as required with certified letters to their home. So with 500 feet, I think it's 500 feet.
Yes.
Anybody 500 feet. So, those parties will be directly notified. But there is no mechanism where anybody needs to be directly notified about this zoning change other than the way that you notify any public hearing.
aside from people hearing about it. So I mean, if it's closed now, then, and then we get comments from the neighbors, we've already
No,
closed.
as Mr. Chairman was saying, you can close and keep it open for receipt of public comments.
Right, but no additional
But not on its own,
requirement for
but-
additional notice, because notice has already been given, correct?
But if we get comments post-closing the public hearing, how does that affect the petition?
But we're
Well, we're
open,
not-
we're
You're
open
open for
for
comments.
comments.
You're still
Open for comments.
We're not
Written
taking any
comments.
action until next time anyway.
Okay, we're not taking any action on the petition. So all we're doing is closing the public hearing,
Correct.
but I'm going to
That's
take
it.
action on the
Allowing-
petition.
Allowing yourselves to still hear and receive comments from the public in that period.
And
For
then-
2
and then
weeks.
vote on the petition next meeting.
Correct.
Okay, just want to make sure I had my procedural.
So
That's fine.
we're modifying that vote then? To rescind the, we're adding.
You never finished, somebody seconded.
We never
so you
finished.
should just say as amended, you're closing the public hearing. As amended to stay open. for public
Yeah.
comment.
So,
Okay.
yeah, that's my motion as amended as stated by council. So we'll close the public hearing, leave it open
For written.
for comments,
Written comment.
Written comments.
Written
Written
comments,
comments.
yeah.
for written comments, and then set it on the agenda for next meeting as far as vote on the petition. So we'll ensure we've heard whoever we best we can.
Vote on the zoning change.
Zone change.
Correct.
Okay.
As amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much.
Good night.
Okay, next.
Well, thanks. I appreciate,
Thank you,
actually,
Antonio.
I appreciate Jim's comment, actually, because that was kind of interest. I
Yeah.
think that would be the opposite, that, you know, paid us to get in there, but the part. Okay.
All right, so we'll jump to public comment, first public comment. And I will stop sharing my screen here. Okay. Oh, here, any public comment from the audience? And on Zoom?
Yes. We have one, Carol. Cernak, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. I'd like clarification as to what your plans are for the timber pile at the Salt Dome. I guess it seems that the purpose of putting out the RFPs was to get a distinction of what it was going to cost the town to get rid of that pile. And I'm not sure where that stands, what that cost was, and how you proceed to go forward, especially with the limit. It's only 4 acres there, and how you proceed to move forward with the DEC and their requirements. So I'm not the only one interested in what you have to say. So if you could just clarify what you propose. You know, the mulch pile obviously needs management. It needs to be stored correctly. It needs to be processed correctly. And that timber pile is getting bigger and bigger by the day. So if you can just speak to that, I would appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, Carol.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, so I'm going, anybody else?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make sure I'm muting as well. Nikki Denicola, I'm asking you to unmute.
Hi, Mickey Denicola, Goldens Bridge. I would just like to take this opportunity to ask the board to please revisit the noise code. Several years ago, I brought this up, and Tony, you were a council member at that time. And I was told by everybody on the board that it's not very clear and we need to revisit it and kind of clarify noise on Sunday. So I'm just asking for it to be revisited because we don't have a building inspector now, and that means you can't call someone and ask them to come investigate other than the police who refer you to the building department. So I just would request that at some point in the near future, you guys revisit it. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Mickey. Just to clarify, we still have an operating building department. You can report issues. So.
Okay, I know there's a deputy. I'm assuming he's in the role at this point, but he wasn't around when this whole thing came up, so.
Okay, thanks, Mickey.
You are welcome. Thank you.
Okay, great. So next we have Lynn Rhodes. This is the highlight of the meeting tonight. So I had the opportunity, you want to step up, Ian? Go to the podium there. So I had an opportunity to attend Ian's Eagle Scout Court of Honor, but I couldn't stay, unfortunately. But this is the proclamation. I'll read it here. Whereas Ian Rhodes of Lewisboro, New York, is a member of Boy Scout Troop 154 of Goldens Bridge. And whereas Ian Rhodes, by his conduct, responsibility, principles, and achievements in following the trail of scouting, has acquired the resourcefulness and leadership ability that will stand him in good stead in his future life. And whereas Ian Rhodes, by virtue of his scouting experience and unselfish service to the home and community, has earned the highest honor of the Boy Scouts of America, the rank of Eagle Scout. And whereas Ian Rhodes based his Eagle Scout project on addressing the needs of the Stamford, Connecticut Taylor Preserve, a satellite of Bedford's Mianus River Gorge, by building and installing a trailhead kiosk and hand-painted trail map to assist hikers, and also a walk around to prevent horses, dogs, and bikes from accessing and potentially damaging the trails. Whereas this honor is deserving of public notice, now therefore, be it resolved that the town board of the town of Lewisboro, in recognition of the worthy achievement of this citizen of the town of Lewisboro, does hereby offer the congratulations of its populace to Eagle Scout Lynn Rhodes, and be it further resolved that this resolution be spread upon the minutes of this May 23rd, 2022 town board meeting for future generations to see, and that copies of this resolution be presented to Eagle Scout Lynn Rhodes and his parents. Dated South Salem, New York, on this 23rd day of May, 2022.
Tony, can you stand still and take a picture for his father, please?
Sorry, yeah, absolutely. You want to stand?
Not to be a scouting mom or anything.
Well, I'm a scouting dad, I should know better, right? Yeah, here we go.
Do you want him to get?
You want to get, yeah, why don't you get right here? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, by the town.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Excellent. All right.
Congratulations, Ian. It's just as Eagle Scout parents up here, it's amazing, the scouting program that Lewisboro has. It's really something. Year after year, we see exemplary Eagle Scouts, and if any place within 1,000 miles a year has more Eagle Scouts than Lewisboro, I can't imagine that. It's a tribute to you and the 12-year commitment that you've made in scouting, and we congratulate you. Best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
And just a quick question, is that this trailhead, this is an extension of the Marianas Gorge Trails? Has this always been there, or is this a new addition?
It's a new addition. They didn't
Wow.
have a kiosk or really anything. They just purchased the land
Oh,
when
okay,
we got there.
very cool. I haven't been to Marianas in a while, so it sounds like it's worth going over and taking a look, so,
Yeah, it's a great preserve. I highly recommend it.
yeah.
Absolutely, great.
And as a former first class, well, I guess I still am a first class Girl Scout. I laud you on your accomplishments and wish you much success in your future as this carries you forward.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ian. Nicely done. Okay, next we have communications. Actually, we're in the middle of communication. I don't have anything else for communications. Let me just verify. Okay. Consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve and accept the consent agenda?
So moved.
Discussion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, old business. I'm actually going to jump to the new business items so that we don't keep Jim here all night. So, yeah, so Jim, go ahead. We're going to talk about the, this is a discussion regarding the approval of Lewisboro Baseball Association projects at Fox Valley Park, which include a new replacement scoreboard and batting cages.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Setting up, just congratulations on a wonderful LBA opening day.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
That was a great event, and I appreciate everybody's help, the board and Parks and Rec and everybody involved in that. I'm not sure if Ian Harris from Parks and Rec sent you the booklet. I've printed copies if you guys need it.
Yeah, I think he did. Let's see if I have that. Maybe I can share it.
You have an extra one, Jim? I'll take it
Yeah,
if you
sure.
do.
Yeah.
Nice one. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you.
Is this the, okay, I have Ian's email here.
So the relevant pages are page 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Are we looking at the lower field batting?
Yeah, so Lewisboro Baseball received part of Senator Harkin's SAM grant, received $45,000 for field improvements. We submitted to use that $45,000 for two items or two projects at Fox Valley Lower Field. One is for replacement of the existing scoreboard. The existing scoreboards, don't know the exact date, but it's 25 plus years old. We looked into trying to get it repaired and some parts replaced. The controller's missing and the parts are difficult to replace. So in the end, we decided that it's not really a replaceable scoreboard considering the age and that the manufacturer doesn't repair it. So we're submitting to get a new scoreboard. It is, if you look at the second page there, they did a rendering for us. It's a 7-inning scoreboard. And it would replace the existing scoreboard. And there is a Pepsi sign. We'd remove that and replace it with this new scoreboard below the Fox Valley Park sign. The cost of that is somewhere around $18,000. That does not include the electrician, and we're getting some quotes for the electrical work to do that. Any questions on this?
Actually, just a question, I guess, thinking about with the town park, is there, I guess it ties into us legal and whatever, is there any naming opportunity? If somebody wanted to sponsor, or what, is there any, what are our options there?
So, yeah, well, I actually tried to reach out to Pepsi to see if they wanted to do it again, and Wells Fargo and a few other local companies. In the end, I think what we're going to do, or Lewisboro Baseball is going to do, is allow for a vinyl sign underneath it that could be sponsored annually. And this way, there's some recurring revenue in there. And that's how we're hoping. Frankly, we're trying to go find an electrician who's willing to donate his time, and we'll put his sign up there for the year, a vinyl sign that's replaceable. So that's the current plan, unless somebody wants to donate some money, that's what we're really looking to do. Yeah, and then we were looking simply to make it purple because of John Jay purple was the color that we were selecting. And then this is a scoreboard that could be remotely controlled by an application on your phone. So if you have the login credentials, you could turn on the scoreboard and enter the score. So you don't need the controller-based scorekeeping that say the town park or older controllers require. And then the second item that we're proposing is a dual batting cage, and that is there's a picture there of from the manufacturer's website of the batting cage. Currently, there's no batting cage in the Fox Valley lower field. There are batting cages at all the other fields at the Town Park, Vista, and Fox Valley upper. There's no batting cage at the lower field. The lower field, for those who don't know, is a Major League Baseball regulation field. So it has the 90-foot bases. The other baseball fields at the Town Park are Little League. So they have they call it 40-60 or 50-70 fields. They're smaller. They're for 12 years old and younger. Fox Valley lower is the one big field where once you turn 13 years and older, you play in high school or older. That uses the big field, as they say. And in fact, the field is just for note is bigger than Yankee Stadium or Citi Field in its dimensions. It's a pretty big field. So we're proposing that we build these dual batting cages between. There's a Google map picture on the next page between the first base dugout and the fence behind first base dugout and the parking lot. The size that we're proposing, although there's some constraints on material and maybe the cost may increase, in which case we may make it a little bit smaller. We're proposing two 12 by 12 by 80 foot batting cages. So they'd be 12 foot high, 12 foot wide, and there would be two next to each other. So it'd be 24 feet wide. And then 80 foot long is long enough so that you could actually pitch in it. So that you'd be able to do both hitting and pitching in the batting cage. There is a quote that we got from local vendor Sports Tech for that. There was a quote they gave us back in March. They said that the prices may have changed for us, but it's currently $25,000. They have all the building department's insurance and certificates that's required by the building department. So that's what I met with the Parks and Rec Committee. They, I'm assuming they recommended it to you guys as well. They asked a bunch of questions and I think I satisfied their answers. They asked questions about enrollment at Lewisboro baseball. Lewisboro baseball enrollment's been probably lockstep with the demographics. We had gone down about 10% a year for a number of years. We started to offer travel teams in the spring, which is something that we hadn't done, and that's actually increased our enrollment. So 2 years ago, we had about 60 kids in the spring travel. Now we got about 120. So from that aspect, we actually, Lewisboro baseball has increased its enrollment.
I have a question. I know that Fox Valley Littlefield does still have some drainage issues. Will that affect the maintenance and upkeep of the new batting cages? Will they be affected in any way by the water?
Yeah, good question. The area that is drainage is mostly in the outfield and left field specifically is wet for a fair amount of the year. The 13-year-old and 14-year-old boys, frankly, don't hit the ball that far. They just play right outside of the infield. So we don't really play in the area where it's wet. It is wet, and that is an issue.
But it's not near where you're planning on putting the
It's
batting
not
cage,
where a
so-
batting cage or near the scoreboard or
So your request to us is just to allow the
It's-
motion to permit installation? Is that?
That's correct.
To
Yes.
assign the monies that we got as a result, or to spend money that we will be reimbursed for, right? It's the same
No,
grant. so
that's
that
already
we-
been done. So
it's
this
done?
is just permission for them to install the
To install.
scoreboard and batting cages on town property.
So you mentioned as far, so I'm going to vote in favor of this. I just want to know, since is there an outside contractor that you've engaged for this or talked to about this?
Yeah, so Sports Tech is the vendor, and they've actually done work for Parks and Rec before. They're a local family. I think the two owners actually live in town. We got quotes from other vendors, but this was the one that we selected. It's Sports Tech is the name of the company.
Okay, I'm fine with it. I just want to put in that we have an additional insured endorsement from the vendor so that the town is covered under that policy during the work, because we have an elevated part referable to the scoreboard.
Well, they need to go through the normal process, right?
Yeah, we have
So that's gonna be a
applied
requirement.
building permits we submitted building permits for both of these projects. I think the only outstanding permit that we need to get is for the electrician who will connect up the scoreboard by the vendor who installs it. And that it's a 10 to 12 week lead time on the installation. So we have a little time to pick the electrician and then get the electrician's license to the building department.
And I'll just read what Ian Harris, who's the chair of the Parks and Rec Advisory Council, he indicated that PRAC supports what the OBA proposes and recommends that the town board approve their request, subject to whatever other approvals may be required.
Yeah.
Approve it subject to the appropriate insurance.
The whole process.
The building department process, right? The building department application process. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, guys.
So do we have-
So motion,
I move that we follow Mr. Harris's recommendation of approving the building process or the approval of the installation of the scoreboard and batting cages at the lower field of Fox Valley. Following, subject to all the procedures required.
Second.
discussion. All in favor?
Super. Thank you guys very much.
Note on here about additional maintenance needs at the bottom of your message here. Just are we going to see some specific, or are you going to work with Parks and Rec?
Yeah,
to
so
refine those?
I've had conversations with Nicole, the new Parks and Rec supervisor, and my intention is to meet with her over the summer, give her sort of a list of things that need to get done. I mean, if you wanted to look at some of the photos.
Yeah, no, I saw.
Yeah, that's just some of the things, the work.
Since you gave it to us, we might as well make that public.
Yeah, so I mean, the Fox Valley lower dugouts were built by Randy Price some 25 years ago, and they haven't really been maintained since then. There's a photo of the roof on it, which is basically the roof is fallen off because it's the original roof on it.
And the upper field needs love too.
I'm sorry.
The upper field needs.
Yeah,
love,
the
too.
back, in fact, if you look at those pictures of the of the backstop, that's from Fox Valley Upper, where the cement posts are coming out of the ground and tilted. I know that the board has in front of them some proposals actually from Sports Tech to replace that. Yeah, almost all the backstops need some type of repair or replacement. That's Vista, Fox Valley Upper. The dugouts need some repair. The foul ball netting in Fox Valley Lower tore back in 2012 with Hurricane Sandy. So it's been 10 years that that netting's been torn. I think that those are the things that Parks and Rec are probably going to ask to be included in the town's budget for next year. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Okay.
To fix them and keep it to go.
Okay, so back to old business.
You got George and
Golden's Bridge. Oh, yeah, George is here. Should we, so that's also new business. So why don't we go ahead and, so you don't have to stay here all night, George.
What's old is new again.
And this is, it's regarding Golden Road Zephyr planting on town property.
And also for the.
And also
The
for
trails.
Yeah, the first thing I'll do
trails,
is,
the trail, sorry,
You,
yeah.
Leon Levy.
yeah, George Scott representing the Town Open Space and Preserves Committee. And we're asking two things for two trails to be built. One probably this year, we're calling it the Connector Trail. And on the information that I submitted prior to that, it's the one in black, that says Connector Trail. It's really dictated by the users of Leon Levy. They started using this years ago. We kept trying to block it off. We haven't been successful. And it really is a nice trail. It's a shortcut between the gorge and the trail that we built last year that you guys approved, the Cross Preserve Trail.
Is it the upper right hand?
This is the one in the middle.
It's a pack.
It's in the
It says
pack.
Connector Trail.
I see it.
And we'd like to do that this year. It's way above ground. It's sort of on a ridge line. So there'll be no involvement with the wetland inspector. At this point, we basically need your approval, and this is what I'm asking for.
Does anyone have any questions regarding the trail, the connector trail?
So moved.
Okay,
How
thank you.
much, what's the type of work that needs to go into it?
Actually, this one is going to be pretty easy compared to most that we've built because there's already a treadway there, all the way worn down to the ground. The leaves are gone and everything else. We're going to be moving it slightly. And so there's really very little work. We have to put in a couple of posts, trail junction posts. We have to flag it. We have to ablaze it, but it's really a very simple thing for the type of work we've done there. I mean, it's really very easy compared to most of the trails that we built there.
And could you explain how all the good work that you do on these trails gets funded?
Yeah, I can. It mostly gets funded through the 2,000 hours of volunteer work that we put in at Leon Levy last year. That's where it comes from. In addition to that, I've written 2 grants for the town. I don't know if you people are aware of it. In 2019, I've come to just about the end of it. One was for about $22,000 from the Jerome Levy Foundation from Shelby White. And the other was a smaller donation, a smaller grant from the Westchester Land Trust. For those of you that don't know, even though the town owns Leon Levy Preserve, Westchester Land Trust has the conservation easement on all but 90 acres of the preserve. And there is money from the Baldwin something foundation for $75,000 that was given in 2005. We are just allowed to work off of the interest and the investments. So we can get about $1,000, $2,000 a year from that. In addition to that, we just finished up the reflecting pool, which if you people haven't had a chance to get to Leon Levy, recently. It's really worth a look. And that was donated. That was a donation from April Foley, who lives across the street, and she hikes there almost every day. And she also is what we call a trail monitor. We have a couple of those at Leon Levy. They hike every day. So if there's a tree down, we're pretty much on it. If it's a step over, walk around, it's not a big deal. If it's blocking the trail, we usually get out there the next day with a chainsaw crew. Also, the grant allows us from the Jerome Levy Foundation, allowed us to buy $7,000 worth of tools, which we desperately needed because our tools were pretty much shot, the volunteers' tools, and some more sophisticated tools like brush cutters and things like that. So that's where the money comes from on that. In addition to that, the Town Open Space and Preserves Committee got approximately $20,000 for Brownell Preserve from the neighbors up there. So that's where the money comes from. We have a very small budget, which seems to be used not by us, but by cutting down trees and conflicts with neighbors to do surveys. And we really have very little of it. We'd like to have more, but that's not my purpose of being here today. I hope in the coming months to write another grant to get some more money. Most of that money went into wayfaring because we now have 6.25 miles of trail, 6.25 miles of trails there. When the Open Space and Preserve started 10 years ago doing that, we had 2.5 miles at Leon Levy, up to 6.25 miles. We're pretty much built out in the main part of the preserve. I don't really see anything further going other than improvements and things like that. We've now restored all of the historic features there. Of course, the mansion was restored by a grant from the Jerome Levy Foundation. But all of the other structures there, we have either gotten the money or one way or another restored them. And it's really worth a trip. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but I'd love to invite all of you to the National Trails Day hike Ospec on June 4th at 10 a.m. We're going to have 2 different hikes. Rose Bonanno will lead one, I'll lead the other. And if you haven't been there recently, it may be an eye opener for you of what a cool place that is. It's what we call a destination preserve now. People come from, sometimes we have more people from Connecticut plates in the parking lot than we do on New York plates. But people come from, far away. Lower Westchester, Connecticut, Hartford, all around upstate New York. And it's become a real destination. Thanks to the Jerome Levy Foundation for buying it and the town for putting the money in, and for our volunteers. We meet every week, Tuesday mornings and so forth. So that's a long answer to your question.
No, that's what I wanted to stress, because a lot of times our residents who either tune into the meetings or take advantage of the trails don't really know or have the opportunity to appreciate that those things are provided once again by our volunteers, and that people donate not only their time, but money and your hard work. You've written grants on behalf of the town. So thank you for that. And we've had a nice influx of new residents to the town, and we've noticed that there are many who are very interested in environmental issues and hiking and trails. We've had lots of applications. So it's nice for them to know that there are other groups that they can volunteer for and help you with the chainsawing and the cleaning of the trails. So it's electric chainsaws there. And
just so you know, all of our tools are battery powered except for brush cutters and chainsaws, because you need more power than you can get out of a battery for those with the present technology.
I do know I take my family to Leon Levy Reserve for an after Thanksgiving hike every year. And from as far away as Chicago and Michigan, they love it.
Yeah, it's a well-maintained.
It's a nice variety of trails for a nice variety of walkers as well. There is an easier trail and more challenging trails for the rest.
We're very fortunate to have Leon Levy. It's just so diverse as far as the physical attributes of the place. That's how we can get so many trails in 370 acres, because the topography, you never want to build trails next to each other, of course. And you can have a lot of trails in this acreage without really bumping into anybody else. And we do get tens of thousands of visitors a year there. I don't know how many, but there are tens of thousands. If you keep an eye on the parking lot, it's really busy. Even I'm leaving at 5 o'clock and I still see people going in. I'm surprised at that. So that's what's going on with that. We are trying to stress on the National Trails Day on July 4th, I'm sorry, on June 4th, trying to get new people into the preserves. And we're trying to publicize it and market it and so forth. And one of the things that Ospec has done, which you may not be aware of, we've had a couple of people on our committee that have worked very hard, almost a year, of remapping all of the preserves, the 6 preserves that the town owns and parks, trail systems, working with the county GIS system. And we have what I can now say is an absolute professional map. But what we've also done is, for those of you who are familiar with Avenza, the electronic walking with the map. In other words, you have on your phone, once you download it, you can see where you are at any point in time. You in theory shouldn't get lost. And we're going to, one of our people who's very technically advanced has an application with a QR code where you can download the app and download all the town preserves in one shot. And we're going to be demonstrating that, and we're going to have people there that can just get these things onto people's phones, and you can walk around, because, we have like 33 trail junctions now, and even though they're labeled, people who are inexperienced can get lost. As plain and as it is, they can get lost. So this will help immensely, I think. And we would love for you guys to come to see what we've been doing there and see the technology. If you don't have Avenza on your phones, I mean, it's a good time to do it. The second thing I'm asking for is, and this is long range. I put 2023, it may be 25. This is the south portion of Leon Levy, and I after the fact gave a map on this. It's a lot of people even are not aware of it. It's across blank here. It's across Lake Kitchewan Drive. It's kind of rough. It's wetlands. There's a lot of boulders and everything. So there's very little opportunity to put trails in there. But we have looked at it over the years, and there is a nice little island out there that we can get to, and by the Mill River, and it's a nice short walk, what we call out and back. It's the same trail. You go out, a little circle like a tree trail, and you come back, and there's a little elevated island in there. And I think that's going to be pretty cool to look at. To get to it, it'll be off the Blue Trail. So from the Leon Levy parking lot, it'll be hiking about a mile until you get to it. It will also be available to the Lake Kitchewan community. They can just walk down the drive and get to it. I don't see that happening for a few years. And of course, we need wetland inspector approval for that. And that's going to be less than a half a mile, probably closer to 4/10 of a mile. And I just don't want to have to come to you next year and ask for it again. We'll knock it off all at once. And that will be very nice, particularly for the Lake Kitchewan community to use. Which I've covered all that. And of course, the town of Lewisboro Trail Volunteers are part of Ospec. And we have a person in charge of each of the town preserves who also do a lot of work with their section of volunteers. Every Tuesday morning, year round, unless it's really, really cold or snowing on us, we're out there. We usually have about 6 or 7 people. In the summertime, we can get up to about 10 people each session. So we can get a lot of work done.
Nice.
And if you look at 2,000 hours, that's one FTE, full-time equivalent, that the town does not need. Plus, one person can't do the work that we do, because sometimes it takes 5 or 6 people to lug big rocks and things like that. So it saves the town a lot of money.
Thank you.
Now, if I can take off that hat and put on my Lewisboro Garden Club hat, I'd like to represent them.
Make a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, okay. So. Go ahead.
Motion to allow construction of the trails.
The connector trail as presented.
Yes.
So you want to break it down each one? Okay.
Well, I thought it was.
Is it?
The only one that-
The two
The only
different,
one
no, I'm
that was a
asking for
connector.
permission for both.
I'm sorry. We're
It's the
getting ahead of
connector
ourselves.
trail,
And the out and back. But the out and back is.
And
Not
the,
for
and the Leon Levy South
South
Trail,
South Trail.
which will be future.
Right,
Okay.
right. Yes, sir.
Motion to approve the construction of the connector trail as articulated. Mr. Scott.
And the Leon Levy South Track.
Yes. I'll second that. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Now we go on to, I'm representing the Lewisboro Garden Club. We'd like to plant 3,000 daffodils. And it would be a little different than what we've done before. The extra drive right out here. We have permission, as you know from my statement, from the board, the library board, to plant on their side.
Mhm.
And what I would like now is your permission to plant on this side, and specifically what will entail is a 2-foot setback on each side of the drive. And we'll connect up from where the existing planting is and go to this little through area right in front of the townhouse. And on the other side, as shown in this Google map, that'll be a little bit larger on the Lewisboro Library side. Our standard for all Golden Roads daffodils is we have a 3-foot setback on the road. And we'll have a 2-foot setback over here. It will curve. When we do the laying out of this, it'll probably be a little bit more on the library side than on this side. Once we lay out the grids, we'll know for sure. And this is basically what it would look like. This will be contiguous with the other one, and this will come up and almost be like an alley. I think it'll really look nice here. And what I also am putting in a 2 cents for, and you'll definitely be on the email list, is if you guys want to help plant. Now, 10 years ago, Dan and Janet, it'll be 10 years ago, November, that you two were here. And I happened to capture a very nice photograph of both of them down there on their hands and knees, digging in the dirt. And I labeled it politics at its best. So that's what we're asking for. As I said, we already have approval from them. One of the issues that will happen, this is the only exit drive, even though it'll be Saturday. So I'll be working with the police chief to see however he wants to handle it. But what we want is no traffic on that section, because the volunteers will be going back and forth. And we usually wind up with 50 to 70 volunteers that help us. 3,000 bulbs, 3 hours. And then we restore the site after that, but 3,000 bulbs, 3 hours, it's done.
Okay.
Okay.
Here's my only concern. When they bloom and in connection with the events that we have on the front lawn, with all the people that stand there, not that's taking away from where people are standing, just that things get trampled. So I just want to,
Yeah. Yeah,
that was my only, because when I saw it, I was thinking, I'm envisioning all the Boy Scouts.
I can address that because the library board had the same, everybody has the same concern. The issue is once the daffodils stop blooming, you never want to braid them, you never want to cut them. The leaves actually absorb the energy for next year's plants, the flowers. And not only that, but if you cut them down too early, you won't have any more daffodils, which we have in certain situations around town. Here we have a situation where these trees grew too fast. They have too much shade. But you're right. And the library board had the same thing. And that's one of the reasons we're putting it over on this side of the library, because they feel with their events, they'll be able to work around that. And over here, we estimate from the drive, you have the 2 feet buffer. We're estimating it's going to be approximately 12 to 14 feet on each side. We'll know for sure once we lay it out. And that's what we're looking. So most of the lawn here, the flagpole, all of the other things should be good. Because I know we have the Memorial Day celebration that goes on here. These, the daffodils can't be cut before May 15th. I'm sorry, June 15th. It really is July, but we started to make compromises to keep everybody happy.
So that was my only concern. I just envisioned everybody on the lawn because it's Veterans Day and
Yeah.
Memorial Day that we really do the ceremonies. And, not that I'm worried about how much room there is, but with the number of children that come and everything, what is it gonna do? Spending all this money.
To be honest, if they cut them, that's a big issue. If they walk on them, especially that time, it's not a big.
Not so much.
It's not going to ruin them. It's just going to be unattractive, and that's just a necessary nuisance that we have to do to have the daffodils. And just so you know, and I'll get something in the mail to you before. I don't know if you know it, but in horticultural circles, this town is very, very famous for their daffodils. it's been in House and Garden. It's been in 3 major national publications. It was picked up a couple of years ago by the AP. It went out to 2,000 papers around the country. I personally saw it in the gate out in San Francisco Gate and just all over. And one other little thing, which I just found out recently, you guys probably know in the New York Times, they have, places to live and everything else. Well, a couple of years they did Lewisboro. And one of the things they thought was desirable about Lewisboro was the Golden Roads, and they wrote it up in the Times. So that's a little thing.
Yeah.
This year I've answered, and we've used this. People from all over the country, once it's got national attention, started writing us. So we've taken our program, which after 16 years is pretty, we have a pretty good program and it's all documented and everything else. And we've shared this with a lot of communities around Wilton and Richfield, but all around the country, Indiana, Long Island, all over. And they're basically using the Golden Roads program, calling it something different. So, that's a little thing that Lewisboro has.
Nice.
And the last thing, I would like to invite all of you to the 50th anniversary of the Lewisboro Garden Club. And our garden club is, we don't arrange flowers and things like that. Well, maybe a little bit, but we're basically a community service garden club. And I think most of you know what we do, so I won't bore you. And this is just to celebrate all of that. We'll have a garden tour and appetizers and drinks and things like that. And it's on June 11th. I think there's a resolution coming up on that. And we would love to have all of you.
Yeah.
come.
Okay. I'll be there.
Any questions?
No, I think we're good.
Motion to approve the Golden Roads daffodil planting.
In
Thank
front
you.
of the townhouse.
A second.
Second. Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and I hope to see some of you there. Thank you.
Thanks, George.
Thanks.
Okay.
Things up, so Leon Levy is town.
Correct.
Right?
Mhm.
And there's no restriction upon anybody that comes.
No.
No, it's open to everybody. They did during COVID, I think it was more of a police action. They said just for residents and all of that. But really, once you get past the parking lot, I mean, you can hide, and you can see somebody many times because it's.
It adds to Lewisboro being a destination, a place to come.
That's right. Yep. Okay, great. So I see Elise is here. So I'm going to continue mixing around the agenda and we're going to discuss another new business item since Lisa's here. We don't want her to stay all night. And this is it is modifying the Veterans Tax Exemption Cap. And of course, setting a public hearing. So basically what this says is that the county modified the cap last year. And they basically increased, there are 3 different categories. So there's and I'll let Elise talk a little bit more about it, but basically there are 3 different categories. There's for war veterans, the current maximum tax exemption is $54,000. The county increased that $75,000. So we're looking to do the same for town tax. For war/combat veterans, it's currently $36,000, the maximum exemption. And we're looking to increase that to $50,000, like the county did. For disabled veterans, it's $180,000. That's the current max exemption. And that'll be, the proposed increase for that would be $250,000. So that's going to be required a change of local law of Chapter 199. The taxation chapter. Oh, sorry. Let me stop sharing my screen. Sorry. Okay, done. So Lisa, you want to say a few words about that, or yeah?
What I'd like to see, yes, all the other towns around us
If you can come up to the.
actually, done this. So I just don't want to be the town that in Westchester that hasn't done this for our residents. We only have 274 veterans that have actually applied for this exemption. I wish we had more, but I just think it's a wonderful thing to do. It's when they say, these certain figures, it's really when then we equalize it with our equalization rate. So it's really not what you, as much as you think, but I just think this would be a fabulous thing to do to support our veterans.
Right. And Lisa, if I didn't mention, is our town assessor. So, any questions from anyone here on board?
So those are the three categories that's defined by the county, right? So as to what,
Yes,
Okay.
but the state offers three different types of veterans, our war vet, our war in combat, and then our disabled vet.
It's actually part of real property tax
It
law.
is, it
New York
is a
State.
real property tax law.
Yeah.
so it's, the numbers are exempting from what?
From their total market value. So forgive me, I'm just getting out of my brace and my broken shoulder. So when they give these certain figures, that's taken into using the equalization rate to equalize that market value that they're talking about, to bring it into an exemption amount.
Okay, so it's exemption from property, local property taxes
For-
up to the certain. amount.
Yes. And the school has adopted the highest of the low many years ago. We're trying to see if the school would actually decide to increase it also.
Mhm. Right.
But Mr. Lemke's helping me with that, so we'll see.
Yes, John is, with your help.
Yes.
Working with the school on that, yeah.
So we have to place this for a public hearing, I guess?
Yes, we do need
We
to
do.
do a public hearing.
So motion to set this for a public hearing?
Second.
For June 13th, right? Yes, second,
As amended by the supervisor, yes.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Hope your shoulder feels
And,
better.
and the goal is for this to be in effect for the 2023.
Yes,
That's the
this
goal.
would start with their April 2023 tax. So if we act on it
Right.
now, we can get this going, which would be really great.
Right. Excellent. Thank you very much,
Thank you
Lisa.
so much.
All right, so let's go back to old business. So the first item is the Golders Bridge Hamlet Organization Agreement for the Pocket Park and authorizing a supervisor to sign.
We had a slight change, I think, right before the last meeting that we wanted to have time for everybody to look at.
Correct. So the agreement has been distributed. The changes were minor.
It was a time frame, right? This 30 to 60.
The reciprocal, the revocation period was something that we wanted 30 days. They came back with 120 days, and we discussed making it 60 days. So that gives them enough notice. So, for example, if we wanted to sell the property, it gives them enough notice period to remove any items that they've installed at the pocket park, like the benches, tables, assuming it can no longer be used as a pocket park. Any other questions from the board on this agreement? Okay. I'd like to motion that we, well, I can't, I'm signing, so someone else has the motion.
Authorize the supervisor to sign the agreement with the Golders Bridge Hamlet Association for the pocket park.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next we have, it's the resolution accepting the MS4 interim and annual reports and authorizing the supervisor to sign. So basically, I announced at the last meeting, May 9th meeting, that these reports were available on the town website for public review and comment.
Just to remind people, the MS4 reports are.
The MS4 is I always forget, it's the
Stormwater management.
Yep.
what does it stand for?
Basically, it just, oh, geez,
I'll look it up here real quick.
the state permit and we have to do
It's, yeah, it's on
certain
this,
things in order to satisfy the requirements under that permit.
So
MS is
MS4
municipal sources, right?
municipal separate storm sewer systems.
Oh, it's
Right.
3, that's the 4, that's what the 4 is.
Correct. And so colored sessions are the ones that put together these reports, and they've been posted to our website.
We had prior discussion about it.
Yeah.
So,
So basically, this is a procedural item to, because once it is authorized for signing, then it can go back to the EC.
it's an annual thing like we talked about.
Correct.
So I move that we accept the MS4 interim and annual reports and authorize the supervisor to sign.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Next item is, same thing, well, it's authorizing supervisor to sign the contract for updating the 1985 comprehensive master plan. And this is a contract with Nelson Pope and Voorhees and PV, who we approved as the vendor to help us create the revised master plan, or comprehensive plan. So that was distributed. Let's see if I have that here. Here it is. Any questions from the board on that agreement?
Just motion to approve the contract for the updated 1985 comprehensive master plan. Nelson Pope and Voorhees, and authorizing Supervisor Gonzalez to sign.
Do I have a second? Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next item is, so when we set the town speed limits to 25 miles an hour, there are certain roads that are called collector roads, and where the speeds are dictated by the state. And so those roads remained at 30 miles an hour. And in order to be able to modify the speed limit on those roads to match our townwide speed limit of 25 miles an hour, there had to be a bill at the state Senate level. And Peter Harcum was successful in pushing this through. And the bill was passed, which then allows us to go ahead and change the speed limits on Boughton Road, Main Street from Boughton Road to the border with Connecticut, the entire length of Oskaleta Road, and the entire length of Spring Hill Lane to its intersection with West Lane. And continuing on that road to the border of the state of Connecticut. No, that's not it. That's not a collector. Yeah, yeah. Did I hear a cheer from the side of the room?
You did.
Okay. So,
And it's already on east, that the speed limit's 25.
correct, right.
Yeah, okay, well, this is good news, and people should know, it doesn't mean you're gonna get slammed with a ticket if you're going 26. But our police chief was clear that, by doing this, it does allow them to pick up people who are pushing it.
Right.
Whereas with the previous limits, it was borderline, because normally there's a buffer kind of thing, so. Good
I
news.
think the goal is to be driving with consideration of your fellow citizens of Lewisborough, whether they're walking their dog or with their children or bicycling. Just please
Correct, right.
drive carefully.
Yeah. So this, a question to Jen. This is a local law change, so we need a roll call.
Yes, you should go along.
Okay.
Absolutely. Before you do it, I don't know if you noticed that we included the stop sign.
I was just gonna say that, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so I think there was, so I did get a, yeah, so I think on the stop sign thing, we did get a little pushback. In fact, I have something to read. So
From the comment, right?
actually, let me jump to that, might as well, since we are discussing it here.
Just in case you want to know that.
Yeah, so.
Right, the stop sign's supposed to go on Hall Avenue at the intersection with Pond Street,
Yes,
going west.
and the original request is for a three-way stop sign, but then the recommendation from our police chief and highway was to replace the yield sign that's on Hall with the stop sign, so it's a single stop sign. So let me just,
So they want, Chief was talking about a yield for a stop sign. Colony wants 3 stop signs.
Correct.
that's correct, right, the one on Hall and 2 on both directions of Pond.
Yeah.
So this is I received this today, your supervisor and members of the town board. I'm writing on behalf of the Golden Bridge Community Association, and this is from Paul Stewart Stan, who is the head of the association. So he's writing on behalf of the association. We submitted a request to the town board to approve a three-way stop at the intersection of Hall Avenue and Pond Street. Thank you for putting this item on the agenda. The opinion/recommendation of the highway superintendent and police chief is incomplete and does not reflect the complete understanding of this issue. It ignores the association's request and rationale contained in the July 6, 2021 letter, last year, 2021. The conditions of our roads continue to deteriorate. The causes are numerous, but I will highlight three. Number one, commercial traffic is increasingly guided by delivery metrics requiring drivers to cut corners and speed on straightaways to make up time. Number two, roads are being maintained with recycled dirt material, creating unhealthy conditions resulting from dust plumes. And three, state mandated 30 miles per hour on our town roads is unsafe and unenforced. Correction to that, it's actually 25 miles per hour. These conditions are dangerous. Our community believes they must be addressed proactively and immediately to avoid heightened risks, potential injury, and burden living conditions. The three-way stop will slow the speed of traffic. At the same time, it will help minimize the dust plumes, trailing vehicles at a high rate of speed. Our board has heard stories of startled parents running to protect their children from dust clouds while playing on their own properties. Properties along these highly traveled ways are covered by dust, both inside and outside. In addition, those who walk our roads wear face masks to avoid transmitting COVID, as well as to avoid breathing in dust. And as stated in our letter in July, near accidents at these intersections are a nearly daily occurrence. We initially discussed this issue with the previous supervisor 18 months ago. At that time, no extraordinary procedure was described to approve this request. We were told that it was a reasonable request and that we should get approval from our membership and relay the request to the town. We did. We understood the delay to be that the signed budget had been exhausted that fiscal year. Yet here we find more potential delays in advance of a busy recreational summer season when children and families are most likely to be on our roads. We appreciate that the town board must balance interests when evaluating this request. Those who would be inconvenienced burden are only likely to be those speeding who exacerbate the present conditions. Our request is tiny, yet the benefits that would flow are considerable. I respectfully ask that our original request without modification be approved immediately. For quick reference, I have attached the July 6, 2021 letter.
In their defense, I walked around there quite a bit, and Hall Street, it's interesting because the way you get into the colony and the way you get out is interesting. And that Hall Street is used as a way to get in and out, because when you go around the circle, you can't go back out the main entrance necessarily. There's issues with children walking the school bus, the dust clouds, and the delivery trucks. I know, because that's another reason and another way that they get in and out of into the colony is by using it's easier when they're exiting. So
Right. Yeah.
I understand, the one stop sign, but honestly, it's almost like a blind. When you get down to the end of Hall Street, you have to make the right to get out of the neighborhood. It's
Right.
when you've got people speeding down, it is not
A
safe.
little tricky.
Yeah.
Okay. I agree with Andrew. I mean, I've walked and been to that area, so I know what they're talking about.
Supervisor, can I just step you back just one
Sure.
second? So I apologize when you said I should roll call. I thought you were talking back to the item before, because the contract for the comprehensive plan is where you should roll call
Oh,
because
okay.
of the dollar sum involved. So I thought you said, oh, I should stop. I should roll call.
Yeah.
I apologize. So just
Now-
We need to revote
step
on
back.
that.
You should just roll call on that because of the dollar
Right.
sum.
Now-
Can we interrupt and do that right now?
Well, let me just confirm
You can do
though,
it wherever you want to do it.
the contract had already been, well, the dollar amount had already been approved,
It's up to
right?
150.
Up to 163,
163.
163, right? So
Since
do we
they're
still?
authorizing you to sign, you should just all roll call. on that.
Okay, so let's do that
The
then.
record, please.
Thank you. Okay. So roll call, Andrea?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Mary Shaw, yes.
Okay, thanks, Jen. So should we, I mean, I don't know, what do you feel? I mean, Mary, are you familiar with this area? Have you seen it?
I am familiar, and I would vote for a stop sign.
For three-way stop sign or?
Yes,
Okay, as they are requesting.
yes.
Okay.
So do we want to separate this out?
Do we want to consult with highway and police
You want
again?
to take it out.
Yeah,
Go
what's-
back to your highway superintendent and the police.
Yeah, that's what I-
Recommended the one.
I would prefer to do that.
Yeah, let's
Um,
separate them out.
I know we're trying to minimize the number of
What's-
laws, but
What's the current view of police and highway as one as opposed to?
it's one
Three.
stop sign here at where.
No, but
Hall
what's
meets
what's
Pond.
police and highways view, one as opposed to three?
Is it the police also?
Yes,
Oh, okay, because I'm surprised, like highway sometimes will just lean heavily on the state highway manual, whatever it says, but
right.
that's not to say you can't deviate at times, but I'm not sure with the police.
Mhm, mhm.
or
Why
thinking
don't
in
we,
this case.
why don't we separate it out? We'll touch bases with the police department and the highway.
It's like a T shape there, Hall Street going into Pond. So
Yeah.
that's, yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think I have, yeah, so this is Peter Ripperger's email. After meeting with Chief Alfano, we agreed the best solution would be the following. Replace the yield sign on Hall Avenue at the intersection with Pond Street with a stop sign. We feel there is no need to make this a three-way stop. So that's what I got.
Well, I think the letter is compelling and actually what's changed in the last couple of years is just thinking about it, the amount in
Mhm.
my neighborhood, the concept of the cars, the delivery
Oh,
trucks
the
so far.
Amazons are there every day,
Yeah.
UPS,
I
Amazon.
wasn't gonna mention,
And weekends too, Sundays.
Yeah, and it's, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean, this is essentially a traffic calming measure, and it's true that sometimes strictly speaking, the highway professionals will try to avoid, excessive stop signs for that purpose, but
Did you
you
say
know,
highway
it's our-
professional?
it's our local road, and this is what they want, and they want to slow things down, and we have the right to do it, so. I mean,
Yes.
I'm fine.
Yeah, so I'm fine with moving forward on both the collector and this. Both.
Right, well, we have to carve it out because we can't adopt it as written, so it's gotta come out and it has to be redrafted, the local law.
Pass
Right.
on the collector roads as amended by removing the stop sign, and then we'll have to redraft the locations that we're gonna do with three.
Right, okay.
So
Can we approve the three-way stop sign now, or do we want to, we can approve it now and revise the local law?
With the hearing.
No, it has to
Oh,
come
it has to be
back.
posted in
Gotta go
here,
to
yeah,
hearing.
that's right,
You could pass on the local law without the stop sign, and just do the 20, the
Right.
speed limit,
okay,
and then.
Or you could amend this one and wait until the next time to do the public hearing
Right.
and do it then, so.
right. All right, so
Probably
now
easier to
let's,
divide it
These
out.
folks would like to get this done in time for this season. Can we separate, but put the other also on the agenda
Well, if
contingent
you know
on?
exactly the three locations, you can amend this and pass it as one, set your public hearing.
Well, I think.
well, we do know
colleagues are looking for
the three
input
locations for
from
the stop signs.
If you're prepared to do that without reconsulting your professionals,
Right.
hearing two different things, but if that's,
Yeah.
and you know the locations, we can amend this. If
Yeah.
you're just putting in the two other locations.
I'm fine doing that.
So are you, Andrea, are you fine with?
I would
As the
prefer to
three-way?
talk to
Okay.
highway and police first, because I
Right.
don't know what their rationale is, and there may be something I'm missing, because this is not my
Right.
area of expertise.
Right.
Me walking
Okay.
around is, my layperson opinion, but I think that we should at least hear what they say and why, and if we disagree.
Right,
Can
Maybe
that
you'll
be-
wind up doing two, so that's why I think the prudent move is to remove this,
Right.
pass on the speed limit,
yeah,
talk to your professionals, and then we can draft
Okay.
another local law for the stop signs.
I'm good with doing that. I think Daniel.
No, I just am trying to figure out if there's some way to kind of keep it all moving in parallel so
Yeah.
that we're not slowing things down for
It won't be
them.
an incredible delay, if you speak to them before, we can have it on the next agenda, have the local law ready.
Can we,
for you.
yeah,
It'll just
And
be a
then you can
separate
set the
local law.
public hearing at. Yeah.
so that means that's the public hearing would be the second meeting in June, potentially. June 13th is the next meeting.
The one after that.
It would be the one after that, right,
Yeah.
the second, yeah,
Yeah.
okay. I'm fine with that, yeah.
Okay.
All right, good, so
So we have
So
to move.
Then move to
move on the speed limit,
set the public hearing for the bill as discussed and amended. for the speed limit.
For the collector roads, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that was Tony who just moved that.
Okay, so that's a public hearing for June 27th or June 13th?
13th for this one.
On the collector roads.
And the collector roads.
Okay.
Yeah.
The local law is written excluding section 3.
Right.
The day before Flag Day.
Okay,
So moved.
so move, discussion,
No, we have to second.
Second.
I will second.
Yeah.
okay, second, discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
You taking any action on the stop signs now? Interim?
No.
Okay,
We're gonna touch bases with our professionals.
Correct.
so then the idea is to get that, come back here and then set up a public hearing, I guess, on 27th, 27th, I guess, okay,
So
okay,
on June 13th, the
Got
plan
it.
is to come in and set the public
Yeah,
hearing date.
got it, okay.
Yeah, and I was hoping to speak to,
You're just setting them on.
yeah,
Okay, but can we go back to the one for the veterans tax exemption?
Mhm.
Nobody made a motion or second for that.
To be put on for public hearing?
Yes. for
I'll
June 13th.
move.
And I will second.
Okay, thank you.
All- Any discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
So that'll be
Thanks,
for,
Jan.
that'll be for 13th, so we have two public hearings on the 13th, right, I believe.
Right, and for the stop sign, you're gonna confer with police chief, highway superintendent.
yeah, right,
And back on the 13th to set it down for the 27th, I think.
Right,
That's
but I'm not putting that in there.
No.
And we'll have to get the local law on the veterans. You don't have that yet.
No. I
No.
don't.
I sent some examples from local municipalities to Greg, I don't know if you're a copy, but,
I don't
yeah,
think I saw it, but no
Okay.
problem.
Yeah.
Great.
And now we need the one for the speed limit. For the collector roads.
Correct.
You don't have that?
It's in that packet.
But you're gonna.
oh, that's right, he did.
Yeah, we did that one.
We
It's
did
in
that
the
one.
packet. We're just gonna be taking it. I'll fix it tomorrow. and resend it.
Right,
So you
but-
know, if you don't-
In Word.
you got it.
Okay, Okay.
I have one more matter for old business before we move to new business.
okay,
Just
it's,
that-
it's not on the agenda?
No, but I've asked a couple times that I would like the ethics code as we amended, and I circulated it twice in
Right.
Mr. Fauche's. I'd like to have it set for public hearing on the next date as well, so we can get moving on that, have it, if we have time to publish it and put it out. This is the second time I've asked.
For the June 13th public hearing?
I would like it, yes.
Okay.
Because at last meeting, I was asked to circulate it again, which I did, and I
Right.
think, and I didn't, in anticipation of us setting a date for public
Yeah.
hearing, that's how we discussed it last time, so.
Right.
It wasn't put on the agenda, but it's old business, so I would just like to ask that the ethics code as drafted and circulated to everyone be put on for public hearing, and if we can't do it on the 13th, to at least put it out there for June 13th, so that we could set the public hearing for the following day, the second meeting in June, it's fine.
So, yeah, so I think I didn't want to include it in this agenda because of the full agenda.
Which is
So
fine,
we can put it on the next, for the next agenda. I think that's.
To
where
set
we're
a
at
public
currently.
hearing.
Correct,
that's fine.
yeah. Okay.
And yes, so the only change was to change the requirement that it be one employee to be 3 residents, that was the only change.
I just, yeah, and that's fine to put it on for next meeting, but
Okay.
my question is there anything aside from the members, which is what's been put forward, as far as any procedure referable to that?
How about we discuss it at the next meeting?
Good, okay, that's question
Yeah.
mark.
Okay,
Tune in next time.
yeah. tune in.
Okay,
So we
fine,
can all review it again before the
Yeah,
next
yeah.
meeting.
Yep.
thank
Okay.
you.
You know, we have another piece of old business, but, and I realize we're stretched, but that's the piece of old business, the stretch code.
Oh, yeah, that's,
And, we had the presentation a couple sessions ago.
yeah, we did that. We talked about having a public hearing.
Yeah, and I wouldn't push it except there is a certain actual schedule
Yeah,
to getting that done, which would mean it would need to be also up for public hearing session as well. Or to make that schedule.
right, so I said again, it would have to be,
Have to be put up, have to go for a public hearing in the next session in order to to make the schedule.
So
And
public
that's
hearing
all.
on the June 13th.
It's June 13th. Yeah. and then
So you want the public hearing on the June 13th, not.
Yeah, in other
the
words,
ethics code.
the law has to be registered with the state before the end of the month, before the end of June. So if it's passed, if it was passed on June 13th, we think that, that's just very, just about enough time to get that done.
Right.
Submit it, get it done.
I haven't had a chance to look at the material that you sent us, but I did have a discussion again at the supervisors meeting where the ones who were there who instituted it spoke highly of it. Warren Lucas, and I think you included one of his videos.
Yeah, he spoke, and also the building
Right.
inspector from Croton is on there. I don't expect everybody, to sit through the whole hour.
So, yeah, so I recommend that everyone on the board go back, review your material, and what I'll do is I'll probe the supervisors and just get additional input that I can share with everyone.
Could you just re-forward it, so if you,
Yeah,
Wouldn't
I
mind.
can certainly do that.
yeah, just so it'll
I'm just,
save some time going straight.
right, I just don't know, like, we're not in a position to set a hearing for it. Then it's moved at that point.
Well, you just said you have to pass it by the end of the month, so.
It has to be, the language is such, it has to be, up to the state and registered.
State registered by the end of the month.
Yeah, right. So, that would mean passing it next session.
The end of June,
End of
Yeah,
June.
end of June, yeah.
So the second meeting, so that we could potentially have a public hearing the 27th, right?
That would be too late, I think.
Dan's asking to have a public hearing on the 13th.
Right, but to get it to the state, because it's upon submission to the state that it's, that's the trigger, right? So,
Submission to the state, I was told that, had to be whatever they do. Has to
But you have to have it back from the state?
be-
I'm sorry, I didn't read the material, no. what
Yeah,
the
yeah.
materials
Well-
refer to, but usually when you pass it and you submit, but. How do those happen?
That's what Bob Fisher was saying. It has to be.
that's what, then we could put on the 13th and then you could double check the timetable. I guess the interim, right?
yeah, okay.
So we can hold the space for the 13th. For the
So-
hearing if we need.
Greg has reviewed, the standard law and all that. So I would like to give it a shot and move that we set a public hearing for the enacting of the New York State Stretch Energy Code for June 13th.
You want a second? I'll second.
Okay. Any other
Discussion?
Discussion?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Thanks.
And you'll re-forward that email. I have it here, but you may want to
The last.
grab the last exchange.
Okay, I'll make
Regular.
sure everybody has everything tonight.
Yeah. Actually, hold on a second. I can just do this here real quick so we can. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so back to new business. The resolution approving Pro disposal services doing business as Suburban Carting Company's application for license to collect and dispose of refuse and recyclables. Janet, this is just a,
Commercial.
it's the commercial piece, okay, and we're already using them for that, right? So, okay. And nothing's changed.
And plus you're using.
That's true, yeah,
So I
yeah.
move that we approve the Pro disposal services re-up for their license to collect and dispose refuse and recyclables in Lewisborough.
A second. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
We never voted on the last one, G. We talked about it,
G is the,
waiving the fees for their.
oh, no, actually, we didn't do that yet.
Motion
Yeah,
to
So that's the
approve.
last item, so yeah.
Motion to approve use of Honor True for the June 11 Garden Club Gala and waiving fees.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I have one more new business item that we're trying to sneak in, came from Parks and Rec. These are two pool user agreements. One is for the Ridgefield Aquatic Club, and the other one is with Storm Aquatics. And we've done this with them in the past. And this is just basically, it's a similar arrangement that we had last year, where they pay us, and I sent this today, so I apologize for not, I got it over the
And
weekend.
that's endorsed and recommended by PrAC.
Correct.
So moved.
And basically, the user of the service will be charged just through, it's where we charge $100 per hour for usage of the pool complex, or $125 per hour on specified dates, consisting of Friday nights, Saturday nights.
So moved.
Wow, we're cheap.
That's for one, that's for the aquatic club, and in Storm Aquatics, it's, they charge $80 per hour, $80 per hour for the usage of the pool complex, plus a $48 flat setup fee on specified weekdays located on property. Et cetera, et cetera. Second. Mary,
Second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Aye.
Just for future, we may want to consider revisiting our fees.
Our scale,
Yes.
Yeah,
look and see what other pools in the neighborhood charge.
Yes.
okay. So we'll move on to public comment number 2. Anybody in the audience? Do you know? No. Anybody on Zoom?
Yes.
I'm asking Julio Orellano to unmute. And you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sorry, I guess I missed the the first part of the comments with the proposal from Baccio. But I live on Mark Mead Road, and myself and I believe other residents that would probably come forward once any type of notification is sent that are against this proposal. And the reason being is that, Mark Mead Road is a residential area, and that house could literally go to a family that's looking for a home to move into our neighborhood. Baccio has gotten so many permits in the past to increase their occupancy. And, they I don't know if you guys remember, but a few years back, they did all that work to put all those parking spaces. And, it got through and it changed the aesthetics of the area. And I don't understand how the Borough Cafe coming in affects their parking situation, because it's only maybe once or 2 times a week that they have an overflow of parking. And even with that overflow, they have cars parking on the street, and they also have other people coming over from the plaza, crossing the road into the restaurant. So I don't know if this only happens during the summer times when they open up their patio, which is another question, because their occupancy increases in the summertime with that patio. I don't know if that's all part of, the occupancy has some kind of increase in the summer and it goes down in the winter. I don't know how that works, but we on Mark Mead Road don't want this.
Thank you, Julio.
Thank you.
You should maybe let the gentleman know as far as what we discussed earlier, what we are procedurally.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Julio, if you do have other homeowners who are concerned, you can write to the town board an email.
I did tell my neighbor who had no idea that this was happening. Because last time that Baccio did something, we had a letter from the town sent to us weeks prior to any kind of hearing. This is the first time that some of them have heard of this.
Okay,
Okay,
all
thank
right,
you.
thank you, Julio.
Thank you.
Carol Cernak. I'm asking you to mute.
Hi, Carol Cernak, South Salem, New York. I would just like to continue to speak on my my mission to get the salt dome under control. Is that, Tony, you told me 3 years ago to keep complaining and to stop cursing, and I've done that. And I would like transparency at this point as to what the plan is for the timber pile at the Salt Dome property. And on the other hand, I have another issue about the building inspector that was brought up at this meeting. Didn't hear anything about it until tonight. Checked into my resources and found out that, in fact, our building inspector, as of today, quit. So I don't know what your plan is. Our deputy building inspector has been on the job for 3 years. Previous to that, he was a building deputy building inspector in Mamaroneck. Don't know why our building inspector quit or decided to leave the job, but it seems to me that maybe you need to look to hire from within. Our current deputy inspector is loyal to our town. He cares about our community. He's not, wavering one way or the other, no matter what, who calls him on the job. And he's a great guy. He's a young man. He's raising his children, and he lives just outside the community. So, take that into consideration and let's move forward instead of keep hiring building inspectors and losing them over, a couple years. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol. And that's it.
That's it? Okay. All right. Okay. I'd like to motion approval of claims. Second,
Yeah, second.
discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Polling of the board. We'll start with Mary.
I attended the fundraiser at the town park on Sunday. It was so hot, but everybody was so full of love, and we raised money for the rare disease, and I believe a good time was had by all. And on Friday night, we had the first food truck Friday to raise money for the playground, and that was a huge hit. We had over 350 people attend, so thank you for those who attended. The last library board meeting, we had a lovely presentation by the teen librarian, Jane Rothschild, about the things that she's done in the last year and what she hopes to do. And that was very informative. We've received donations for Juneteenth from several families, as well as 2 board members. And for those of you who don't know, you can send a check to the town of Lewisboro, Box 500, South Salem, New York, 10590, and write Juneteenth in the memo and send it to my attention, Mary Shaw. And the money will be put in the right budget line, and it will be spent on the Juneteenth celebration, which will happen on June 18th at the town park from 12 to 4, and all are welcome. There's no charge for admittance to that. It's free, and it will be a lot of fun. And then the last thing I have to announce is Pride in the Park. There are several events that are happening. I will highlight the two that are happening in the town of Lewisborough on June 11th. There's a family flag dance at Lewisborough Town Park, and it will start at 11 a.m. And then on June 26th, Pride in the Park will happen at Onatru Park from 2 to 7 p.m. And if you need more information, you can email me, or you can also you can also Venmo at Lewisborough Celebrates Pride. That's Venmo at Lewisborough Celebrates Pride to help donate to that. You can also make a tax deductible donation through Pride Works for Youth, and you can contact me. And then I just got notice that there's another donation as well. So thank you for those who have donated. And if you need more information for these events, feel free to contact me.
Thanks, Mary. Go ahead, Rich.
Thanks, Tony. And I think that actually the Pride organizers were successful in securing a grant, actually.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Which they were successful, I think, in securing a $15,000 grant, if I remember.
It wasn't as much as they wanted, so
Right.
that's why we're looking for donations from the community.
And I know they're looking for, I think, another $5,000 to $10,000 from the community so they can fully fund the activities. I've contributed myself, and want to encourage everybody else in the community, as Mary said, to contribute money towards the Pride events as well as towards Juneteenth. This is an opportunity for everybody in our community to really show what's best about Lewisborough, its people, its generous people, and its spirit, and it's an opportunity to come out and show that and support these very important events just coming up very quickly. I wanted to segue into potholes for a minute. As everybody knows, there's been issues, particularly on Route 35 on the east side of that. I've reached out, those are state roads, so everybody should be aware of. I've reached out to Assemblyman Burdick's office, who's reached out to the Department of Transportation to advocate for all the state roads in the district which are in need of paving, including strongly advocating for Route 35. The Assemblyman's giving the DOT an opportunity to look at the report which has been presented. We'll be scheduling a meeting with the DOT officials shortly. Everyone in town's encouraged to call the DOT residency about potholes to make a record. That's 1-800-POTHOLE, I believe. That's the number you can call. I also touched base with Peter Rippinger, and he's going to reach out to contacts in what I believe is DOT Section 8, I believe, to try and communicate the important needs for Route 35. I want to encourage everybody in the community to make any complaints. This is an opportunity to have our voices heard here in Lewisboro, and the more voices that get heard, the better opportunity we have. And also,
Can you repeat that 800 number?
1-800-POTHOLE. And actually, another suggestion which came from, and we can have that drafted for next meeting, was a suggestion from Assemblyman Burdick's office to actually for us to draft a resolution and adopt that at the next meeting, making reference to the Route 35 road condition issues and urging our, I guess, state officials and other governmental officials to press forward with that as soon as possible.
We could put Route 123 on there as well.
Yeah.
And Main Street.
Yeah.
So I So what I wanted to discuss with that actually is it's a point of personal. My daughter graduated. She got her master's degree yesterday from Hofstra, so attended that, and we're coming into graduation time. So I want to wish all the moms and dads and parents and siblings and friends and family who have graduations coming up, best of luck and success to all of you. One of the things that makes Lewisboro such a great place is its people and the exemplary success that they've had now and into the future. Best of luck to everybody.
Andrea.
I'd like to remind everyone that the town of Lewisboro will be having the first fireworks spectacular since pre-COVID. So Saturday, June 25th, on a true. Fireworks start around 9:25, but you want to get there early. I think parking is $20 per car, and they'll park you, bring your blanket, bring your picnic basket, come on down. Also, donations and sponsorships are still available for the fireworks and very much needed for that event. So please drop off your check or contribution to the Department of Parks and Recreation to anytime this week. That would be great. In addition to, on Mary's note, I have handed Mary a check from my family in support of Juneteenth. I have another check here that I'm going to hand to Leo for Pride Day. And I also have my contribution towards the fireworks. So support your community. Again, mostly everything, all these events in town run on the backs of our volunteers and our community businesses. So step up. There's lots of opportunity to contribute and participate. So thank you.
Yeah.
Just report on a fun little event that was based around a wonderful contribution by the Lions Club of a bike rack for Fox Valley Park to encourage kids in the neighborhood to use their bike more, and they're getting around the neighborhood. And the chairperson of the Bike Pedestrian Committee, Doris Peter, and member Christina Chopin, and others did a great job organizing this event and had all the kids there, and the fire department even stepped up and came by, and we had a kind of a bike march around the neighborhood in launching this new bike rack. So it was an inspiring statement about urging people to get out of their cars, and it just happened to be Bike to Work Day, I think. So that kind of aligned nicely.
Also, bike rack in the Jeep in the Pocket Park, which is
Oh, yeah.
instruction.
There's a bike rack there? Oh,
Yes.
that was homemade.
Homemade,
Yeah, that was wonderful.
local
Yeah,
materials.
yeah.
So just one more thing. I also attended, LVAC had an open house on Saturday, which was pretty well attended, even in light of the fact that the weekend was pretty busy between Lewisboro and Katona with tons of events going on.
Oh my gosh, that reminds me of the Vista Fire Department.
The spaghetti
that
dinner,
we
right?
attended.
That was nice. And I was also at the Sala event in the park on Sunday. Tony was there setting up the grill for the Lions Club bright and early in the morning. I was helping them fold t-shirts and get ready for the tie-dye. It was a great event. And if anybody is interested in sending a contribution, they are still accepting contributions to help with rare childhood diseases. And you can email me, or you can go on to Facebook and you can see the website where you can donate to Jessica. Yes, Jessica Folio.
Excellent. All right, so these four covered some of the things I was gonna share, but I'd just like to add on the DOT issue and the potholes. So a really good number to call is 914-232-3060. That's the local Katona office. So flood them with phone calls.
The residency office, is that what they call it?
Please repeat the number.
914-232-3060. And to add on that, I did have a meeting with DOT a couple of weeks ago up in Poughkeepsie regarding a different topic. It was the use of herbicides along guide rails. But I did have the opportunity to meet Lance McMillan, who is the director for Region 8. So he is aware of our pothole situation, and I told him that I'd stay on top of him and until they fix these potholes. I'm looking to get them out on site so that he can personally see for himself. And I did work with Chris Burdick on getting the list of state roads. And that list is going to be included in the letter that Chris Burdick is going to be sending out. And yes, we do have on the agenda for the next meeting, we're going to be approving a resolution to the DOT to get the potholes fixed, among some other items. I'm going to put a list together.
What was your conversation about the herbicides? How did that go?
Yeah, so they're going to continue using herbicides. These are herbicides that have been approved. It's the DEP is okay with their use. The DEC is okay with their use. They're only using them where there are sections of guide rails that have a lot of growth around them. And the purpose is so that the guide rails are visible to the driver. So if you're pulling off to the side of the road and you don't see a guardrail, you're thinking you're going up against weeds, there may be a guide rail there. So they will continue using the herbicides, but they are, in terms of the application, they're basically targeting specific, they used to just basically sit on the side of the truck and spray the entire length of the guide rail, even if there was a manicured lawn against the guide rail, they would kill the lawn. So they are not doing that anymore. They're being more cautious. And one of the requests that I had, it was myself, the supervisor from Bedford, and the supervisor from North Salem were the three supervisors that attended. And they will actually send us some map that indicates where in town they're going to be spraying. And so as soon as I have that, I'll share that with the community. But, one of the reasons for going there was to meet the director of the region. He was not part of this meeting, but I asked for him. So he's somebody that Peter Parsons had on speed dial. So it was good to place the name with a face, and he's very receptive to continue to work with us.
Share that map when you get it. So, in the past, we have gotten certain adjustments, and the edge of a lawn is one thing, but some of the edges that are like right on the edge of wetland and it's going into the water supply, that's even a little bit more.
What else do I have? Oh, the food scraps program. So they shared with me on Friday that they've collected over 1 ton so far. So the 4 bins that are behind the townhouse have collected over 2,200 pounds of food scraps that are going to be recycled and turned into compost. So the sustainability committee are very excited about this, and as we all should be. So that was pretty successful program that we put in place.
It's really easy to use as well.
Yeah. And we're not the only ones. Neighboring communities are doing it. Yorktown went as far as they're actually creating their own compost from the food scraps that they collect.
Oh, really? They've set up their own?
Yeah.
Something to strive for.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
And I
we should
think Bob
think
Fishman
about
is
doing that for next year.
right. Yeah. So I think that's all I have.
Could you just add that the numbers are going back up with COVID?
COVID numbers are going back up.
Please be careful.
Yeah, be careful. They went down a little bit as of today's report. But COVID is still out there. And just from personal experience, my dad had to go to the hospital, unfortunately, over the Wednesday night. It took him over 24 hours to be given a room because White Plains Hospital was short about 45 beds because of the increased hospitalizations.
So that's a real thing. So even if you think you're going to make it, you're still putting a burden on the system.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Do we have any rapid tests?
We do. We're looking to get more. So we'll put out I mean, if anyone needs any, give us a call. But we do have some inventory. Yeah. And we're hoping to get more. I spoke to Chris Burdick. He's looking to get some more for us.
And you can also put in the request with the
government.
The government,
Yeah, for
the post office is delivering 8 tests to each household. So you go online and you can find it.
And that's in addition to the ones that they had already
Exactly.
allocated to
Right.
each household, right? Okay. Okay, so next meeting. June 13th, 7:30 PM here at the Townhouse. And motion to go into executive session
Or
for personnel discussions. And town property discussion, town property discussion, yeah. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone, for coming out.